So do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda?
Yes, we do actually, Josh.
Right.
So I just got off the phone with the Carbon County Commissioners, and they voted to participate in the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. So
how many are we up to now, Dave?
we are up to 8, and I met with Butte Silverbow last night, and it's 99% sure to be a for sure deal there. They just need to get it on an agenda for our meeting next week to actually take action. So
great. And Lewis and Clark realizes that when the passenger railroad passes by Helena will just dry up and blow away, and they'll have to move the state capital.
Yeah.
What the 19th century phenomenon that could be revisited in the 20th.
Yep, indeed. So that's the latest.
This is really, really great work. It's very exciting. Okay, our first item is from Bradley Seaman.
Okay, guys. I was just bringing you a request to adopt a change to the bylaws for the Election Advisory Committee. So this comes from the resolution that was passed at the April Election Advisory Committee meeting, which requested 2 additional at-large members. These 2 additional at-large members would be eligible to start serving. We would schedule them a shorter term for this so that they could get onto a 3-year cycle and have staggered terms. These would be 2 at-large voting members for the EAC, and they would be eligible to start recruitment for the upcoming September meeting. So one of the big aspects on adding in those 2 new members would be that we'd want to make sure that we had time to recruit for them and have time to get those positions filled so that we didn't set ourselves up to have vacancies that may not get us a quorum for the upcoming meeting in July. And the other change to the bylaws for the EAC was the reflection of the request to add in an engagement piece under the membership. So I'll see if I can get my screen to share here where I can show you those quick changes. But what we had asked to do is say that all people who serve on the EAC must take the election judge training, and that they have an area of specialization as well, so that they take election judge training and then know something in our office about areas like ballot preparation for mailing, or serving as an election judge, late registration, petition signature processing, but gain an intimate knowledge specifically of a process that we do throughout our office. We have many members who already do this, take the training, and help serve. Todd has always served on our post-election audit committee. Denver just recently served as a late registration aide. But we really want to encourage this so that members of the EAC are a lot more knowledgeable and have a lot more engagement with the elections office, so that when they're asked a question or we're doing a project, they know what we're talking about, what we're doing, and they can help echo our messaging on that of where we're working on and how our processes take place. So those changes reflected in there are the additions of these 2 new at-large members here under the membership, as well as the changes and the addition of this eligibility section here. So qualified electors of Missoula County required to complete basic election judge training and to renew it on a regular basis. And then committee members are encouraged to take an active role in elections processes. Late registration, ballot preparation or processing, serving as an election judge at a polling place being a couple of examples.
Hey, Bradley, would you mind explaining what the rationale is for adding the additional at-large members?
Yeah, this was a request from the EAC. They felt like adding in additional at-large members would provide a little bit more diversity to this group and would allow the opportunity for the Board of County Commissioners to help select those members whom are serving on the group. So they would be at large, we would post them publicly, and we would interview those different people together to help make that selection. So it was a better ability to gain a quorum, more diverse groups, as well as the addition of, the ability for the Board of County Commissioners to be able to screen, because recently we've had a lot of students with not a lot of applications. We've had a lot of turnover on our Republican and Democratic members of the committee. So just a little bit more continuity. I do have their resolution, and I'll see if I can pull that up for you really quickly, which spells out specifically those.
And has it been an issue as of late getting a quorum at the meetings?
We have not really had an issue. We've been down to one member regularly, but we've not had a meeting where we haven't had a quorum. Recently, pre-COVID, it would be a call-in sort of thing. With COVID, it has been really pretty easy for us to get a quorum because everybody can join regardless of where they're at through the Teams meeting. So I'll see if I can share this resolution really quickly as well. And so this is the specific information that Shibu had provided for their resolutions. A broader sense of ideas, reflecting the community, and making sure that they're varied, scheduled changing needs, and making sure that they can represent the community at large. So a little bit more diverse group with the community. We just recently, last Wednesday, had a resignation from one of our long-term members. And so we would want to fill that position as well as these other positions. And this is the opportunity to catch rural members, different people who reflect other areas of the community, and to help make sure that we have a little bit more diverse reflection of the community on the Election Advisory Committee.
And refresh my memory, Bradley, is there still a designated libertarian member or not?
There still is. We have not yet removed that libertarian member. In the bylaws, it did state that anybody who had a central committee would be active. Now, the central committees appoint their own members, and their central committee is no longer active in Missoula County, but they're a qualified party. And that was a big reason when we were working on this with Matt Jennings in 2017, that we added that libertarian member, is because they had been considered a qualified party. Without the EAC had a big push to be more inclusive, add more people in. I didn't want to turn around and ask to remove a position when their request was specifically to add in more diverse populations.
Okay. Well, thanks. I would move that we approve the proposed, what the heck is the motion here? I move that we approve the changes to the bylaws of the EAC.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Next, we have our own Chris Lounsbury to talk about a collective bargaining agreement.
Morning, Commissioners. So this is an update to the collective bargaining agreement with the unit that covers the health department's non-nursing staff. And so this agreement does a couple of things. First thing that it does is it recognizes that there was a merger of unions in the state of Montana that created a new, larger unit called the Montana Federation of Public Employees, so MFPE. This group had previously been associated with the Montana Public Employees Association, or MPEA, but they merged and became the MFPE this last year. So this updates the name throughout the contract from to that new name and new unit number so that it reflects their alignment with the state group. Also, it updates this bargaining agreement to comply with, we had an MOU in place that incorporates that language to address the Janus decision that came out from the Supreme Court impacting union membership. So it updates the sections of the collective bargaining agreement to bring it into compliance with Janus, which had previously been part of a separate agreement, an MOU that was outside the contract to address that when that Supreme Court decision came down. Other than that, what it does is it does a lot of updates to language specifically around things that have the largest impact at Partnership Health Center, just based on the way this bargaining unit is. And so it addresses things like for licensed clinical social workers who are also licensed addiction counselors, the ability for them, for that certification to be recognized and for them to be paid for that. Also, increases the what we call a uniform allowance. In this case, it's really a scrub allowance. So even though there aren't registered nurses in this, we have medical assistants, licensed practical nurses or LPNs, certified medical assistants as well, who actually are in scrubs and in with patients inside the clinic. And so it allows for us to provide uniforms for the scrub uniforms for those folks so that they have those available to them. On the health department side, the big changes really were around the environmental health specialists. Dave, you might remember from the last time we updated this contract, I don't believe, Josh, you were quite with us yet, and I know Juanita was not. Environmental health specialists at the health department, who are also sometimes called registered sanitarians, were lagging very far behind their peers across the state of Montana. And so this brings them back more up on par to match the rate that that licensure requires. It also increases the amount that we help to reimburse the cost of licensure for those folks. So actually, I know this sounds a little counterintuitive. It is more costly to be a licensed sanitarian in the state of Montana than it is to be a registered nurse in the state of Montana. So just the nature of those two boards, their fees are a little bit different. So there's an increase in the amount of fee reimbursement that we do for those licensed sanitarians and others to make sure that we're covering the cost of licensure since they're working for Missoula County as a registered or licensed sanitarian. On the partnership side, again, switching a little bit, we created a new pay grade 12, to bring some of their IT folks in particular. They have, as you know, a completely separate IT shop inside partnership because of the work that they do. So it brings them more in line now with the courthouse IT folks. So that parallel jobs kind of maintain that parity. So we don't have people internal to the organization looking to potentially move between set units of our organization simply because the pay rates don't always sync up. So it does those couple of things as well to help partnership in that IT field stay competitive, both internally and externally in those positions. So those are the major changes. There are a number of other minor changes related to language, but those are kind of the larger updates. This contract actually expired during its negotiation period. So it expired in June of this last year, so June of 2019. It expired, but we've been in negotiations. And of course, those took significantly longer. We were close to wrapping up right about the time that COVID hit, and that just delayed our ability to complete negotiations with them as we had to move to kind of virtual and online negotiations, which made scheduling even more difficult to wrap that up. So I apologize for how late this is coming to the commission. So the contract, which would normally run 2 years, will actually only have a year left, basically, once we sign, because it'll go till June of next year. So.
Okay, that all makes sense to me. Thanks for your work on this, Chris. I would move that we approve the collective bargaining agreement.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm glad our sanitarians will be on par with other sanitarians across the state.
It is a very difficult job, as we all know. It's licensed
Really?
sanitarian, but if you think about everything that environmental health is doing right now related to COVID-19, that all falls in that same category. So
Yeah, they're often at the focal point of the public too, so it's an important position. Thank you. All right, John Hart, I believe we've spoken about this bridge before.
I knew that was going to be your thought going into this, and I'm sure you're thinking, "Gosh, when does this end?" And we are getting closer. I can let you know that. But first, I want to share a little bit of my pain with you in terms of the RSID statute, and it explains why this is such a long process. But I can almost guarantee you that if you found 10 people and asked those 10 people, how can we use the RSID statute to raise funds to maintain a bridge like the Lindbergh Lake Bridge? I can guarantee you that you would get 10 different answers if the only thing that these people had was the statute, the language in the statute itself. It's confusing language. It's very dated. It's a version of the English language that, to the extent that we ever spoke it, we no longer speak it today. So that's a little bit of my pain. But my pain is always softened because, and this is so rare too, there is a Montana Supreme Court decision that very clearly states the 9-step process that you must use as a county if you want to use the RSID statute to for a project like this project of bridge maintenance. So I am slowly, methodically following that 9-step process, and I'm bringing today to you a resolution for levy and assessment of tax for the cost of maintaining the Lindbergh Lake Bridge. This is the 6th step in the statutory process. The first step, you might recall, happened a year ago when you considered the resolution of intention to assess the district for the cost of maintaining the bridge, and you also made changes to the district boundaries at that time. That was in July of last year, and then you might recall you had a public meeting where district members came and had the opportunity to protest that resolution of intention. There was insufficient protest at that public meeting, so you were able to go forward with some of those first steps. And again, now we're on the 6th step, where you're actually going to levy a tax. Prior to this step, over the winter, Public Works solicited bids to find out how much it would cost to do the necessary maintenance on this bridge. The winning bid was $67,295, and that was slightly higher than the $66,000 that was estimated last year in the resolution of intention. The good news is that that resolution of intention had a provision where the final bid for the work could be up to 15% higher than the estimate. So we're well within that 15% range. We're safe there. That $67,295 bid plus some past costs that the Lindbergh Lake Homeowners Association have incurred and will be reimbursed, along with the $500 administrative fee that Missoula County is allowed to be reimbursed. The total of those three figures is $73,871.29. That's the entire cost for bridge maintenance. That's the cost that will be assessed against the 115 property owners in the district. And the resolution that you have before you shows that each one of those individual property owners will be assessed on the 2020 tax bill a total of $642.36, have to be paid on November 30th of this year, the second half due on June 1st of 2021. The final thing that the resolution before you does is it states that you will hold a public hearing at 2 p.m. on August 6th of this year. And the purpose of that hearing is to hear objections to this particular resolution. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, John, why are you bringing us a resolution today to adopt when we're going to give the property owners an opportunity next month to then object to that resolution? And I share that question, but I am simply following the 9-step process of that the Montana Supreme Court has given us. And they say, first you pass the resolution to levy and assess, then you give notice of that. So if you adopt this resolution today, the resolution will go to the clerk and recorder. The clerk and recorder will publish notice of the resolution in the Missoulian twice in July. And they will also mail a copy of the resolution to each property owner in the district, stating that you will be holding a hearing on this resolution on August the 6th and taking objection to it. And on August 6th, you could, under the statutory scheme, modify this resolution if there is something, an objection that you hear on August the 6th that causes you to think that the levying assessment is somehow inequitable or unfair to the property owners. But you do not have to do that. You will hear the objections, and at the end of the hearing, an appropriate action would be to just sit tight on what I presented to you today. But you will have that option. So I say that to sort of explain to you why it seems like we're putting the cart before the horse. That's about all I have to say on this. Hopefully I haven't made it too confusing for you. I'm happy to try to explain some of the other steps that have already happened or anything else that you might have questions about pertaining to this particular resolution.
I guess I'm just hoping step 9 is not go back to step 1 or something like that.
Step 9 is perhaps the simplest step. It is simply the requirement to deliver the final resolution to the clerk and recorder. And that doesn't even involve the commission. I'll see that that gets done, but that can't be done until after the hearing on August 6th.
John, what do you anticipate at that hearing? Do you feel like we're going to get lots of objection and or asks for changes?
I don't, Josh, because the amount of the individual property assessment that was in the resolution last year is only a couple bucks more today than it was then. So
and we didn't expand the size of the RSID, so there's no new folks involved.
No.
Great.
No. If there had been new folks involved, we would have done what Dave was afraid we might have to do, and that is go back to step number 1 and start over.
Okay.
But there may still be some folks from the district that once again want to voice their objection to some aspect of the long process that started originally with their request to have the county transfer ownership of that bridge from the county to the homeowners association. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
John, is there any mechanism where if rather than spreading out the payment in 2 installments, as it were, if someone has financial difficulty, is there a way to accommodate it being spread out over a longer period of time, or not?
No, there isn't. There isn't now. That would have had to have been laid out in the resolution of intention last year, and it was. That resolution made it clear that this would be paid in one tax year. That was the request from the homeowners association. That's why I put that in the resolution. It could have been spread out over as much as 10 years. And that's another good thing that we should have on the record here this morning. It reminds me. So even though Missoula County will not be collecting the money until November of this year, and then finally in June of next year, it is the intention of the Public Works Department to do the bridge maintenance this summer, and I think they're looking at September to do the bridge maintenance. They will use money out of the county bridge fund to pay the contractor to do that bridge maintenance, and then when the money is collected next year, that money will then be reimbursed to the county bridge fund. And so also, Dave, I point that out because we really want to reimburse the county bridge fund as soon as possible and not split up those payments in more than one tax year.
Fair enough. Okay, well, with that, I would move that we adopt the resolution for levy and assessment of tax for the cost of maintaining the Lindbergh Lake Bridge.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We seem to have crossed that
Thank you
bridge.
very much, commissioners.
Thank you, John, for
Good job, Mr. Hart, with the Supreme Court decision here recently.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise to everybody, including people in Missoula County that appreciate public access. Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you. All right, we have a handful of standard employment agreements.
And these, sorry, commissioners, these are exactly that, just a handful of the continuing employment agreements with partnership, as we've talked about. Their agreements run one-year terms with their providers. And so those expire at the end of the fiscal year. And so this is just renewing those for this next fiscal year that started on July 1st.
Great. I would move items 4 through 7.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are helping to keep partnership staffed. All right. Is Diana around to chat with us about this correspondence?
Am I here?
There you go.
Great. So let me just pull it up here. This letter that you have before you is a comment letter to the Public Service Commission regarding Northwestern Energy's application to revise their E+ green tariff, which is a voluntary tariff that Northwestern Energy customers can sign up for and basically purchase renewable energy certificates or RECs on their utility bill. And the revision just reduces the rate. They've been overcharging people for the RECs for some time now, so that's what the revision would do. I've been participating in the Green Tariff Stakeholder Group through which this revision has been discussed, and have made it clear, as has the city, through those discussions, that the E+ green tariff just really isn't relevant to the city and county with respect to our 100% clean electricity goal, because it just involves the purchase of these unbundled RECs and doesn't result in the addition of new renewable energy to the grid. And this revision doesn't change that. And we've made clear also that what we are really interested in that group is the development of a new green tariff, what I would consider an actual green tariff that does result in the development of new utility scale renewable energy in the state that the city and county governments would have the option of buying into, and potentially, depending on how it's set up, residents and businesses in the city and county would be able to buy into as well. Northwestern has assured us that they're serious about continuing to work through this group to develop such a program. However, at this point, with this filing to the PSC that they made recently for the E+ green, they're not actually required to do anything further. They were required to do this much, at least, through the PSC order with regard to the rate case. They're not required to do more. They assure us that they are going to do more. And the purpose of this letter is just to be clear on the record about why we're not interested in the current E+ green program, and why we are enthusiastic to continue to be part of that process and develop an actual green tariff.
Sounds great. I'll be happy to sign the letter.
Yeah, it was a well done letter. I appreciated the pushback on what we want is additionality, not tying into things that already exist, and calling that helping to meet our goal. So thanks for that, Diana. I'm excited to sign this letter as well.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, any communication needs requests?
I don't think so. Josh, you should be all set for the press conference this afternoon, but let me know if you need anything.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
I need to do a little more homework, but I have a bit of time.
Okay. If you need anything, just let me know.
Thank you. I hear there's some mild interest. They got a few dozen emails or something.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. I heard it broke 3,000.
3,500 is the last I've heard, yeah.
Is that
It's up to 4,500. This is Anna.
4,500? Wow. Is that a record?
I would think.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
I would think.
It's about 4,450 more comments than I think they've ever received.
Wow.
We didn't even get that many comments on Lindbergh Lake.
I know. Amazing.
Well, you have a few more steps, Dave.
Yeah.
So commissioners, there is one other piece of correspondence, just so you know, we're getting ready to send out the communication to invite legislatures to your next meeting with them, which is coming up next week, week after next. And I just wanted to touch base with you on that.
Sorry, Tuesday the 14th.
So it is next week. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. We had originally planned on inviting all of the folks who were in races around that meeting, but the state, our understanding is the state is looking more and more at calling a special session. So we, around the CARES Act, and given that that is one of our topics, we would like to scale that meeting back to current legislators so that we can focus on CARES Act, given the fact that it seems likely we will have a special session. And those will be the folks going to Helena in that, and then postpone inviting our folks who are running for office to our September meeting, which would be the next meeting after that, if that's acceptable to the commission.
Sounds
Sure.
good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other COVID or fire comments or instructions?
Commissioners, I am here if you had any questions or anything you wanted to discuss, but I don't have any updates other than what you've already are aware of.
Okay.
I guess one question, Chris, any chance you could follow up with Shane to see what the status is of the Kerwald Road repairs? I chatted with Willis Curdy the other day, and he was remarkably out knocking on doors in his mask, I guess, along Kerwald Drive, and there are a lot of grumpy people out there, and I'm not sure if they're aware that, or if Shane has touched bases with them, relaying to them that there will be some repairs made, predicated on, of course, if they are, well, I guess with the acknowledgement that any future repairs they would be on the hook for and need to be looking at an RSID to cover.
Yeah.
I will reach out to him and find out.
Thanks.
Anything else in on COVID or fire? Okay. Upcoming events, invitations. We're all good. Great. It looks like we're done with 22 minutes to spare. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Have a good day.